الحمد لله رب العالمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How you doing, beautiful?
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm good, Baba. I'm good. I'm really good.
That's good. You're looking beautiful. You're looking pleasant and peaceful and grateful.
This was a rest yet work day, like choose my work kind of day. So it's good. The heat is very different over here. I'm on the second floor in my building, so the heat heats in here. So staying hydrated, but I'm good. A lot of thoughts and next chapters of life. That's how I get, especially when we start to get ready to come into this space. This is a day of full-on thought and reflection. So, yeah.
Right. Alhamdulillah. That summertime, I can remember some of the wonderful songs we used to listen to back in in my day. Summertime.
Yeah.
I have to look back at some of those songs. So many memories, right? So many memories. I mean, you think about high school memories. I mean, for me, wow, wallahi.
Yeah.
High school summer memories were like, wow. Those were the days.
Those were the days.
It's like, out here in East Oakland, you got Arroyo Park and Nolan Park and all them things. You see your partners and you see people rolling through. Those who are fortunate enough to be 18 and 19 and have a car. Like they were in charge. It's like there you go, right there, right. So alhamdulillah, it's a beautiful time, good times. Alhamdulillah.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, and I was really that catfish po' boy that y'all brought back for me yesterday. Oh, come on now, it just was killing me. So it's good.
So
I look forward to it. Yeah. All right, enough of me. Let's get a little more of you. Alhamdulillah, sweetie. Good see you. Got it. Go for it. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. Alaikum assalam. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمد رسول الله. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to all of our listeners and followers on our Facebook Live and YouTube and those listening on Blog Talk Radio. I am Hajja Kamila Shuaib and I'm honored once again to be back in this space to share thoughts, to allow myself to be open to have an offering through our this journey, our process of understanding our existence. And I know that for me, I've in listening to the audio that my dad had shared, I'm quite impressed with the business model around what Myron Golden has created, right? So I hear a lot about him because many of the entrepreneurs that I am in contact with or that I'm in like learning circles with have taken his courses or study with him. He taken him on as a mentor and or coach, and in experiencing him, he was actually the one for me that made go, all right, I need to know who is that for us in our community. His level of dedication to understanding and making those connections within scripture and also living a life of wealth and showing others how to do that. I just found that very impressive and it inspired me more to understand the Quran and what I say I believe as a Muslim, because I believe it, right? And living in that space of the belief, it forces you to be a true student of understanding the Quran and understanding the life example of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and why I strive. And when I say strive, this striving is not a striving in this desire to prove a point. It's not that at all. This striving is in to discover, to explore this book that we have access to, and in exploring it, that we discover what it is, that what we know to be true. um, and I feel like I'm saying that as clearly as possible to those that are listening, but I want to really solidify what I mean by that. Like, there is, if there is a destination, a place that you want to go, right? You pull out the tools necessary to get to that destination. Now, mind you, you've never been there before, right? But you know it's there. And so you utilize the tools that you have access to that leads you to that destination. And so there's a vision we have for our life. There's a reality that we hold fast to, that we, when we think about it, it jars up a level of emotions within us. When we execute it and study a certain aspect, one of those bricks, one of those steps towards the destination, it confirms, yes, you're going in the right direction, right? So like, if you're using GPS to get to a destination, if you make a wrong turn, what does it say? It says rerouting, right? It'll reroute you to get you back on track in order to reach the destination, right? And so you pay attention to that. You don't just go, okay, well, a place you've never been. You don't just go, okay, well, I want to go this way, right? You could be delaying your access to the finish line because you are tapping into your own self, what you feel like, as opposed to trusting the vision is, this is where we're trying to go. And Allah has sent us signs and tools and things that will help us to navigate the journey towards the destination. And it is in those moments, that's where the internal conversation starts to happen. And this internal conversation requires us to juggle a lot. It's not um, it is easy, right? It does happen with ease, but it's not easy. That's what I meant. It happens with ease, but it's not easy because we have so many distractions. Like, life has so many distractions that can keep us away from the discipline required to listen, the discipline required to be obedient, especially when everything around us is telling us to make other choices that are not the best choices for our life, right? I had this I do this morning call, I like on social media, I do. And I was speaking about this ideal of making choices, right? Our ability to choose what we want for our lives, right? And in these choices, like, that's a gift, but we can't abuse the gift of choice. That this choice, you have to be prepared for the responsibility that comes along with the choice that you make, whether it's good or not good, right? But we want to always make the good choices because it's in those good choices that it unfolds another good thing, right? But in making that good choice, it might not feel comfortable. There's this space of unknown. There's this space where your faith has to be exercised in order to say, like, is this good? But there's a moment that we have available to us where we check in with ourselves. Well, why do you want to make that choice? What is it that you seek to do? What is your intention behind making this happen, right? And so when we tap into those things and we are honest with what comes up as a result of that internal conversation, now you are left with the choice. Okay, so you realize that maybe this choice might be a little bit more ego driven than, driven to be pleasing to Allah, right? And if that is the case, then, and you decide to make a choice that's more ego driven to look good in front of the other people that you probably won't have a real relationship with, in order to seek validation from things outside of yourself. Like, this is your drive, this is why you're choosing to be charitable, this is why you're choosing to gain wealth, this is why, like, those are your reasons why. And you make that choice, and then as a result, the consequences that come along with it, because the ego is not something that will sustain your life and your reality, right? This will be a choice that you make that will not feed the parts of yourself that allows you to sustain and keep the energy towards the destination. It's a very temporary thing. So sometimes we'll make choices that are shortcuts because we want it right now. I want to make money. Okay, well, I see that everybody's doing this and they're making money doing it, so I'm going to choose that. And then you might get a little glimpse of a little success, and then it falls apart. Why is that? Because you were looking for a shortcut, and it was not rooted in feasibility. Is not rooted in, what, Allah, you say that I have access to the joy, the peace, the calm. I have access to these things, right? You say I have access to it. So if I have access to it, I'm going to trust the journey that you placed me on in order to do it. And that I'm going to trust that you're preparing me for the responsibility attached to this choice. Right? So when we make this choice to be Muslim, just let's just say something as I make the choice to be Muslim, but then there's challenges attached to it based on the environment that we're in, whether we are converts coming from a family that are not Muslim and they have to adjust to this new way of being. If you are at a job that it's just like it doesn't make you feel that comfortable to make it known that you're Muslim, or choice when you're fasting, it's like, you're working around food. I don't know. Whatever those challenges may be, there may be a multitude of challenges that you face. But even in those challenges, there's nothing in you, nothing in your heart, or nothing in your mind that says, I think I don't want to do this no more. That doesn't come up. It doesn't go, you know what? I think I may have made a wrong choice. I'm not doing this anymore. No, what do? We make the adjustments to ensure that, okay, I need the proof, the evidence that the choice I made is the best choice for my life. And everything else that's around me, they don't have it. I don't need that to validate me. All I am seeking is a clear sign from Allah that says, yes, this is the life that you're choosing, and this is the life I have chosen for you. Right? So, how do we allow ourselves to be open to recognize it when it shows up? Because when we open ourselves up to recognize it when it shows up, it's really a beautiful revelation. It can feel a little like it can be a little jarring because it's like, oh, I asked for the evidence, and Allah was like, sure, here you go. And then you take a moment and say, okay, how am I going to process this truth that was delivered to me that I asked for? Right? And it is in those moments that we learn how to move forward towards the destination with patience, perseverance, and prayer. So, what's the goal? There's no goal too big or too small. It's like there's no goal too. If the goal is something as simple as, I want to eat more vegetables. If the goal is something that I want to be a multimillionaire, big goal, right? Small goal, big goal. It doesn't matter where it is in that. Is it good for this way of life? Is it good for you as a, will it expand your iman? Will it make you stronger? Will it allow you to strengthen the potential, expand the potential of what Allah has placed in you when you came earthside, when you were born into this earth? Does it allow you to be able to engage and to explore all of the foundational the 5 pillar foundations of this way of life, right? So in understanding that, now that's where the fun begins. That's where the adventure begins, right? Do we approach life as an adventure, or do we approach life as, oh no, I got to do that again? Oh no, like prayers in again? I just made a lot. Ramadan, I don't know, like it's going to be hot these seasons during Ramadan and I still got to fast. Like, do we approach it with that kind of spirit? Why? Why would you do that to yourself? It's a gift. Like when someone gives you a gift, it was very thoughtful and intentional. They didn't have to give you anything, but they gave you a gift, right? They gave you a gift with the intention of offering you something unique, something that says, I was inspired and thought about you. Here's the gift. Well, Allah gave us a gift, and it was very intentional. And in that gift is an opportunity for us to explore this adventure called life. And with all of the challenges that come along with it, there are still tools available in order to provide you ease in this journey, right? I was looking up happiness in the Quran, and that root word is so layered. It was layered. But one of them was ease. And I was like, ooh, I like that. I like that the Arabic term for happiness, that root word also can be translated as ease, right? And then it was also, and I'm telling you that I'm telling you this in real time because I know I need more time to sit with it. But to the students that are listening, I say go ahead, go and explore this term happy, because I'm in the business of, I believe that every human being should know and experience happiness. Happiness is just, happiness is your birthright. And this ideal of happiness isn't this thing that just pops up. It requires effort. There's an effort required to achieve happiness, because there's a capacity that you have to expand yourself to in order to house the beautiful power of what happiness brings. Happiness is not just, okay, ha ha ha, that made me laugh. There is a real satisfaction. There is a real level of, I am pleased with my life. Like there is, like, all parts of yourself has been seen about, has been nurtured, feels protected and safe, right? And so in that, it's like life shows up with a level of ease. But as we also know, fi ahsani taqweem, with difficulty comes happiness, maybe, right? So when we start to sit with having time for that thought, it's like, okay, what is the difficulty? And I want us to unlearn, like, really, this is why I am so very grateful to Allah that He birthed me in this season of our community's evolution and the growth of our level of understanding during the time of Imam Muhammad Rahimullah's um, uh, Imam as a leader, right? Like I was born in that, I wasn't born in the cycle pre as a Muslim, right? I came into Al Islam after the foundational parts of what this community has created, and it has allowed me to have access to not being oppressed by language, inshallah. And I say inshallah because I always learn different things about how I use language, or how I absorb and consume the language of others, that I have to be very aware of it. Like I had a conversation with my mom yesterday, and there was this moment she was sharing with me a children's book, and there was just a picture in the children's book, and she was like, I would have never put that in there. She's like, I'm confused, right? And I said to her, it made such a clear point to me, because I grew up in a household and within a community where there are certain details that we go, that don't make sense. But to someone else who does not have that lens, they don't see the big deal. They just don't see the big deal in certain subtleties, because they don't realize that their subconscious mind is putting things in the forefront. They're just doing things autopilot, but in their subconscious mind, it came forward, and they don't even realize the choice that you made can come off a little questionable, right? But I grew up at a time where I could watch a movie. Like, sometimes I'll go to the movies and I literally have to tell my brain, like, let's just try to watch the movie. Like, let's just try to watch. Yes, I see that too. Like, this is the dialogue I'm having in my head while I'm watching the film, right? And it's like, I get why people are excited about a movie. Okay, I mean, I'm trying to be, kind of glaze over, but I'm gonna speak a word that is straight and direct. Okay, so you guys can understand what I'm saying in this. So, Little Mermaid. We went to see Little Mermaid as a collective, young girls, everybody. We went to see Little Mermaid, and there were ideas in there where I'm just kind of like, yeah, no, like, it's cute. So I had to give myself a moment to pull out the positives. She has a beautiful voice, and this diverse inclusion, and da 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 da, and the queen is this, that. I pulled those things out, and I acknowledged what the good was. I acknowledged that when I was growing up, the images that were there, like, there was zero representation of brown skinned girls in animation, very few, if any, dolls or anything like that. Though I wasn't into dolls, I'm just saying there weren't any, representation of things that looked like me, not only as a Black girl, but as a Muslim, right? And so now we're in this time where everyone is seeking a space to be seen and acknowledge that my existence needs to be a part of the narrative of all the things, right? So people get excited. We got a Black Little Mermaid, and they're showing the videos. The girl's excited. Oh, she's Black, da 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 da. And it moved me too, because I understand the sensitivities connected to seeing that. It was like, great, right? Now, the part of the story that for me just kind of had me a little unsettled was, the prince wasn't Black, one. The queen was Black, but she found him in the ocean. It wasn't her son. He was an adopted child. So she takes this boy out the ocean, and now he is now the prince of the queen of this island, where it was clearly all Caribbean people. But this boy was made the prince of this whole kingdom. Heck of other little children run around there, not knowing who's what where, but this the one that she's making the heir of this royal castle, right? So I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. Like, so it was like, okay, but watch the movie, Camila. So there were moments of things popping up for me, and he's just like determined to go colonize. I was like, is anybody else watching this movie with me? He was determined to get on a ship, leave that island with his Black girl who gave up her magic in order to be with him on first sight, and go and colonize another country. And I was like, wow, all right, Disney, this what we doing? But that's not the conversation that people are having. But I was raised to look beyond surface visuals. I was raised that way. To where when I watch movies now, if the camera is held at a particular angle and something is there, even in the peripheral of it, I know, okay, that's important. No one else looks at movies like that. I'll be talking to people about movies, and I'll be like, did you see the part when this? And they'd be like, no, they didn't see it. I was taught to look at things that way. I was taught that if the camera is at a certain angle where this was more of the focal point than another individual in there, it's like, oh, this has got some significance. Got to pay attention to that. Why did they move that glass the way that they moved that glass? They spending a whole lot of time looking at this angle when they could have easily just boop had it like that, right? This is the dialogue. So as a result of it, this is the same thing with our words. Like the way that we use words when we say things like worship, when we say things like, how we allow ourselves to submit, when we say things like difficulty, are you thinking about difficulty from the lens of the Eurocentric language, or are you understanding what Allah means by when Allah mentions difficulty in the Quran, that is not something that is meant to hurt you, to oppress you, to put you in a space of suffering? No, it's so that you can get to the ease, so you could get to the happiness, so you could get to the wealth. Like you have to strive. The striving is not so, oh no, I got to do that again. No, the striving is, I'm getting you strong enough to carry the responsibility of this gift I got for you. This is why when we are born, it's a blessing. We don't remember what that experience is like when we come through the womb, earthside, because of what has to happen to the body, the squeezing that has to happen to the body to reveal a new life that comes forward, right? This is what has to happen. So we have to change our minds in how when we enter this beautiful revelation, we have to not look at it as, oh, God asking me to do that too. No, absolutely not. God is giving you the keys to your freedom. And those keys to your freedom is what's going to allow you to experience the happiness, the abundance, the joy, the peace, the reclaiming of the garden, all of the things that you're not getting because you're adopting the language of a society that wants to keep you oppressed. So they'll tell you that, entrepreneurship is hard so that you won't want to be an entrepreneur. Yeah, them taxes will be a burden so that you won't want to be an entrepreneur, because you're adopting a Eurocentric idea of language on what it takes to get the thing that Allah says, I have for you. I have this for you. I created you in excellence. I've given you the knowledge and nature of all things. Why are you listening to them and saying that you can't have, can't do, can't achieve X, Y, and Z? Why is that your reality? Because you're using white language. And until you free yourself of that language, you will continue to be mentally oppressed. I think that's my time. So with that, I'll the email come back in, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah, Rabbil
Alhamdulillah.
We good? Yes, you made me think. Well, I don't know how James Brown finds his way into our conversations on a regular basis, but I think in the video, I think it was one we said when we were kings or something like that. It had to do with the Muhammad Ali. I think it's a documentary of the time of the in Zaire, whatever the battle, whatever the fight was. James Brown was in the middle of this conversation, if I'm remembering correctly. So it's like he going in on him now. He going in on him. So I'm listening to this. Okay, so you about to go in on him. So back up. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. So alhamdulillah, as always, a blessing and a pleasure. And I'm going to keep the train on the track and keep it moving. So everybody else just sit back and we're going to go where we go. Alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum. All right. Alhamdulillah. There's quite a bit to leading me into our conversation for today. There, making a deal with the devil and selling your soul to Satan and all of that. All that's kind of lingering around in the back of my mind. Is hanging around the cusp of these conversations, because we really have to get to that, right? And I'm going to say why. Part of understanding reality, just like what Haja was just saying. It's like you have to get the whole picture. You have to get you have to be operating from and utilizing the map of reality that Allah created, that God created. There's the external map and there's the internal map. There's the you that Allah created, there's the creation that Allah created. And it's your relationship between the creator and the creation. Getting that right, that's how you move in it. That's how you move within yourself, and that's how you move within the world, because the map matches the territory. So you have to understand the territory and the map for yourself. You have to understand the territory and the map for creation itself. And so, and you cannot understand that or have the best and proper perception of that if you don't understand the role that Satan is playing in this whole deal. You know, you have to understand that. And as Haja was saying about language and the language that we've been given versus the truth, if you will. So much. So when you say so much, I'm literally for most of the world, 95% of the language of the world and the mindset that comes from that language of the world is grounded in the perception that the deceiver wants us to have. And this deception is it's the ultimate deception, meaning that I really shaitan, right? I really want you to not know what is real, right? And yeah, there's something in that too. So that's part of my effort is to, okay, let's not forget how we have to have an eye, quote unquote, on shaitan. We have to have a perception. We have to have a view. We have to have an understanding. And Allah tells us, He said, you have to be mindful of him because he is to you an open enemy, aduwwun mubin, an open enemy. So it's like, don't you think it's a good idea to really understand your enemy? To really understand your enemy. Y'all know I play chess. It's a hobby, not in the clubs or chess clubs or anything like that. Just on computer. Just there's a lot to it. But one of the things you have to do, you can have your plan, what you're planning to do in your strategy and your tactics as you play your game, but you better know what their plan is too. You need to know what their plan is, and you have to try to stop their plan, make their plan difficult, i.e., if not impossible for them to achieve what they're planning. But you need to know what their plan is so that you can stop their plan, right? And that's how it is as it relates to us and shaitan. Shaitan has a plan. We need to know what his plan is. And Allah has revealed his plan to us. We need to know what his plan is, know what his strategy is, know when they are showing up in situation X, Y, Z. Oh, okay, well, that's shaitan. I see that move. That's a Satan move right there. So it's like, okay, let me do this. Check. That's what you have to do. Another beautiful thing in the course of and I intend, inshallah, with Allah's help, to elaborate on this more at another time. But it's a beautiful understanding. Maududi. I was looking at some footnotes from Maududi from this section of verses that in his Tahfim al-Quran, which I recommend to everybody. And I'm going to read quite a few notes from him today, inshallah. This section of verse we're going to be talking about, I believe it's 38, between 30 and 40. 30, Surah 38, between 30 and 40. But one of the footnotes, I can't remember which one it was, but just the statement, he makes a statement, says Satan's goal, his aim, that is the real thing that he's trying to get. He's not after disobedience, meaning disobedience. Okay, that's good. So disobedience is like silver in the paradigm that I'm giving you for him. Silver is good. You know what I'm saying? So disobedience is good. I get disobedience. Satan is not aiming for disobedience. Do you understand that? We don't, on natural basis, we don't really need Satan to encourage us to disobedience. It's like we kind of disobey on our own, right? Disobey. Sin is shortcomings, in our language. Sin is shortcomings. Sin is missing the mark. So it's like, on really just on a natural logical basis, we don't really need a lot of help to disobey. We kind of just disobey, right? And so we get better as we get more socialized, blah, blah, blah. So Satan he's not after disobedience. That's not his main goal. His main goal is disbelief. Just think about that. Satan is not aiming at disobedience. He's aiming at disbelief. His victory is, can I get you to disbelieve? Now, you need to hold on to that, write it down, think about it, just turn it over in your head a whole lot of times to where it becomes habit mind for you. Satan is not looking for disobedience. His aim is disbelief. Let me make sure that my belief is always solid. No matter how disobedient I become, I'll never be a disbeliever. And I'll keep asking this Lord of me and of all of us, forgive me, forgive me, forgive me. Satan's victory is getting you to say, I don't believe in God. So, all right, so go on. So Myron Golden, what we listened to in the beginning of this piece, as we always do before, we listened to Myron Golden, and he's very biblical. He's very biblical. Very explicitly so, biblical, and that's not a problem for us. So God says to us in the Quran, the nearest to you are the Christians because they study the book as it should be studied. Okay, I can't validate 100% of his particular study. That's between him and God in terms of that. But what comports or concerts or that is in concert with what Quran reveals, it's like, alhamdulillah, that's good. That's what the Quran is. It's a commentary, a completion, a correction, and a continuation of previous revelation. So when he brings something that rings well with what Allah revealed, then we put our stamp of approval on that particular commentary. There's a great deal there. There's a great deal there. So what we're talking about today, I'm going to go ahead. Now, mashallah, I'm not hating. I'm not mad. I played the man's piece like that. So it's not my intention to be insulting anyone, to him or any Christians at any time. But at the same time, the Quran speaks of those who are called dalin, wala dalin. That is those who go astray. And it means you missed them out. You're aiming at the right thing, but your arrow just swerved a little bit from the target, right? So in his thumbnail title for that, the piece of which we only played about 15 minutes of it, we played from about 5 minutes to about 20 minutes. I think it's a 45-minute piece, actually. His title for it, so I'll give you that, is The Wisdom, the Wealth, and the Wickedness of Solomon. Okay. I wanted to get to, so I did YouTube search for, okay, somebody tell me something about the wealth of Solomon, right? So that I found this title with him, and the length of his presentation is good enough for us to be able to take something from it. Okay, so that's fine. Okay, so the wealth, the wisdom, the wealth, and the wickedness of Solomon. Now he's being biblical from that perspective. He makes, in the first 5 minutes he covered that. We didn't play that. We didn't play the part of where that kind of thinking, that attitude was from. Didn't play that. It's okay. I understand, mashallah, Allahu alam. I understand how somebody gets that, and the Quran addresses that, and inshallah we may have time to say something about that. The Quran addresses why somebody can add that to their thinking about Solomon, even while and as, which Myron Golden did. He said, but that's not all of him. That's not what he's all about. That's not his heart. It's not his heart was totally to God, blah blah blah. But there was some wickedness. Okay, so we're gonna be talking about that in just a minute. And another thing that came to mind. So is the wealth, the wealth of wisdom, and the wickedness of Solomon. Blah blah blah. Another thing came to mind: 3,000 years of yearning. 3,000 years of that Idris Elba, I think his name, and Tilda Swinton. That whole jungle fever, for loss of a better term. I know it ain't the right way of saying, but I gotta push on. Right, that's going on. I mean, there's so much. You talk about a charged situation right there, charged with the caste system background of the Western world. And they're throwing those pieces in there too. You got the whole jungle fever element. I'm still calling it that. The jungle fever. Then you got the jinn and the biblical and the this and the that in there. So there's another thing. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you this too. So right, the piece that only brings it to my attention, and that I will therefore bring to your attention, those of you who have Prime, who's that, Amazon Prime, I think it comes automatically with your subscription. I'm not recommending, don't have any stock in it. I'm just telling you where to find what I'm talking about. So you don't have to watch the whole movie because I had to search it out. So the piece at about 21 minutes to about 26 minutes, right? In that piece, 21 minutes to 26 minutes, that's when he tells the story about what these writers, or what whoever authored the movie, whoever put it together, what their theology around Sulaimaan and Saba, Pitch Black, another movie, but the Saba in the movie, they got her. She's, those beautiful ebony black. What's that? Onyx. Yeah, kind of onyx black, right? So that was her, Saba. And not gonna go into that. If you want to spend the time with that, 21, 20 to 26, you get that. But so many statements. I mean, hit some points. Quran talks about the Ifrit of the jinn. That's mentioned in that section of the movie. The question comes up about, did Solomon go to her? Did she go to Solomon? That's addressed in the Quran. They say what they say about it in the movie. And then also they talked about Solomon using magic, right? He was the way he used magic. And not in a positive way. I'm talking about this 3,000 years of yearning movie. That's interesting. You have two L's in the Hispanic language, and maybe L's in general, but I know two L's, then it makes a Y sound, right? So I, my tongue just kind of tripped over the idea of yearning, and you wind up learning, right? So let's go ahead with it again. Catch what Allah throws you in motion, right? So you got yearning and learning, right? Easy connect. Now you got look at that. Talib. What is Talib? Talib is a student, and Talib is also appetite, and that's what that movie is really talking about appetite. And really the dominance of the world right now. This is the wickedness of the nature of this world. Y'all, please forgive me, but I have to say it in a way. That won't be missed. But this is instructional, not being salacious. It's instructional. This world is seeking to lead the masses around by their genitals, just literally, just to lead the world around, just grab the world by the genitals and just lead them around, go over here. But everything is governed by the genitals, right? So that's the distractive bait that people are giving rationalizations for following those desires and those appetites, and without discipline, without limits. Just let it all hang out. That was way back in my day, telling let it all hang out. I mean, it's just wow. So, in any case, and so therefore, this like totally being distracted upon a power that Allah had put in our nature to give us pleasure that we get habituated to, and irresistibly so. But there again, it's a bait to distract us from higher things, right? All right, so all that's in there. The Quran 4:119. You can always go and look at that. And I will create in them false desires. I mean, really, you just look at what is a woman, and look at all of those other. Look at those YouTube shorts that just talk about women and the alphabet community, and listen to those. Mashallah, I collected them. I'm gonna figure out a way how to throw them. That's because I have a lot of them. I call them Nimrod moments, where it's like people talk about, I'm a real woman, right? And you know the rest of the story. But when they get hit with a fact or information or a question, and their brain just locks up, or they run away, or they scream, or they start cursing, or they do whatever. It's just like the Wicked Witch of the West, when that bucket of water get thrown on them by Dorothy or the Scarecrow, whoever did it. I'm melting. This is what happens though. Yeah. That's where I'm at on that. Well, let's move on. So we're talking about Sulaimaan there. So we're talking about Sulaimaan. So I'm saying all this to say, in the main, how does that the wisdom, the wealth, and the wickedness, for example, of Sulaimaan gets put into the mix? So that statement about magic and about the jinn and about that's something that has been tied to Solomon down through the history. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he purges Sulaimaan alayhi salatu wasalam. He purifies Sulaimaan of that claim, or that charge, or that historic lie against him. He does that in the Quran. It's like, yeah, I know what y'all been told about Solomon, but it's a lie. Solomon was completely obedient to that. Now, he definitely had some relationship and some utilization of devils and jinn. Yes, I said devils. I'm gonna give you the verse if you don't know it already. Explicitly stated by God. But see, that has to do with what we don't understand about the reality of the jinn and elaborations of that, right? You heard me all the time. The form, place within the system, evolution from simple to complex, and role in the guidance, right? Well, the jinn falls into that too. What is the form of the jinn? What is the place of the jinn in the system? How does the jinn evolve from simple to complex? And what is the role of the jinn in the guidance of Allah? If the jinn was all bad, why would Allah have an entire chapter in the Quran entitled the jinn, right? And make the distinction for us to understand that all jinn aren't all bad, right? And those that are, quote unquote, otherwise bad, the person with the right heart, conscience, mind, wisdom, etc., can control and use even those jinn. That's one of the things that Solomon did. So for someone biblically before in the face of what was said about him, that was, quote unquote, where a lie was, let's call it, imputed to Solomon, but sanctified in the canon of biblical scriptures. Like, okay, I get it. You believe in that, so therefore, since you believe it's right there, it's the Bible. The Bible said it, so it must be true. But okay, I got it. That's okay, fine. You don't have the Quran. We have the Quran. The Quran said, but look, it's this, and this. You can accept it or reject it. It doesn't matter. The creator of the heavens and the earth cleaned that piece up for Sulaimaan. So let's walk a little ways here. Yeah, let's walk a little ways here on on this. So what I'm only mainly, not only, but mainly going to be focused on just an expression of it, because the ideas and concepts are even in the translations, and any really any translation with Allah's help and guidance, you know, we're not we're not buying into it, reading. We'll make corrections and adjustments in terms of the semantics that may need to be made at the time with Allah's help as we move on. But mainly so that we can get the concept out there. The main thing that I'm trying to get us to grasp, just the concept of Solomon's wealth and Solomon's reality and his relationship to it, and how understanding this with having a purified, and I mean by that a correct perception of how Solomon models wealth acquisition and wealth creation for us. Those are marching orders, right? I think Myron Golden in his part of his piece, he said you want to get orders from headquarters. You want to get orders from headquarters. Well, yeah, we're that way too. It's like, okay, when I understand what the revelation said, which came from Allah himself, Allah said that those are the orders. Okay, so that's the behavior pattern that we follow, right? But first you have to get the orders straight, right? So let's walk on. Auzubillah, 38. I'm starting with 38th, the 38th chapter of the Quran. Let me give you the, I want to say Surah Al-Safa. I'm not sure though. Let's see. We'll test our knowledge of it. Let's see. 38. So Sawd, like the letter. Not like the letter. The letter, Sawd. Let's see. One little note. All right, 38:30. To David we gave Solomon for a son. How excellent in our service. Ever did he turn to us. This is Allah being crystal clear about Solomon. It's like he was a gift to David. He was a gift to David, just like Ismail and Ishaq were a gift to Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. So Solomon is a gift, and how excellent in our service. So he's an excellent servant of Allah, and he turned to Allah always, ever turning to Allah. That's verse 30 of 38. So Sa'd. 31. Behold, there were brought before him at eventide, that's in the evening, at eventide, the coursers of highest breeding and swift of foot, meaning these are beautiful, wonderful horses, right? Now, we start here to introduce the idea that there are things that the beauties of this world, the wonderful things of this world, ziyanatul hayat dunya, the beautiful things of the life of this world, Allah created them for us and for everyone in this world, and everyone has access to it. But again, to speak about tests and trials, they are all still tests and trials. This life, we should be very, very clear. This life is a trial. Allah, he says of himself, الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن العمل. Allah says the beginning and the end of this life, the death and the life of this world is a trial to see which of you is best in conduct. That's what it's from your birthday to your death date, from our birthdays to our death days. Everything in between that is a trial, because what comes after we pass through that door of death is the reality. This ain't the reality. i.e., this is not the end object. This is a temporary platform that we occupy for ever so short of a period of time. What comes after, what is going through that door, that's what it's about, being ready for that when you come through this door. Now, please, I remind myself and I remind you, because any one of us, as the prophet said, live as though you're not going to live to see tomorrow, and live as though you're going to live for 1,000 years. The reality is that our passing from this life is an inevitability. Every soul shall have a taste of death, right? That's inevitable. There's not, no matter how much you don't want to think about it, even though Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his prophet, peace be upon him, so one of the things that purifies the hearts, and one of the notes, one of the things that distinguishes the enlightened, the scholars, literally, is the remembrance of death, and it purifies the heart. So, brother and sister, I believe it's useful for us to think about judgment, the judgment day being tomorrow. Bismillah. I believe it's useful for us to believe and have the feeling, have the sense that the judgment day is tomorrow. Not to the extent that if you can't think about it in a way, you don't become anxious, paranoid, whatever other kind of bad mental states go along with that kind of thinking. But the point is just having that sense of preparation. Here's the deal. I don't know that I'm going to live to see tomorrow. You don't know that you're going to live to see tomorrow. We all agree that one of these days we're not going to see that tomorrow. And here's the thing about dying, mashallah. Before my birthday, the creation had been in existence for 14 billion years, just according to scientific count. Those who say this is not necessarily the first time that we got here. That is the 14 billion with the Big Bang, boom. That could be the beginning of this particular epoch, if I can call it that we're living in. But the point is, 14 billion years. How long did that feel? Did it feel like, damn, I'm thinking about the jinn in the 3,000 years of yearning. He said, Solomon put me in a bottle, locked me up in there for 2,500 years, 2,500. And then he started talking about how did he spend the 2,500 years, right? So no, see, death, it's not like that. Death is like that 14 billion years, and then you have a birthday, and then one day you become conscious that you're alive, right? Years after you were actually born, right? But with death, it's like bang, bang. It's like bang, you die, pass the next thing you know, you won't know about it. I don't care if it takes another 14 billion years. You and I won't know anything about those 14 billion years. It will be like I was alive, boom, and now I'm alive in a new reality. And there won't be, it's like, oh man, finally. No, it's like bang, bang. So I'm saying when you have the sense that, tomorrow may be the judgment day in the light of passing from this world and then awakening in the life that comes hereafter. So that's why I say, it's good. And I pray for myself, and you pray for me, and I pray for you. It's like, let's do everything we possibly can right now while we're alive, while we can, every good deed, every purification, every goodness we can put on our record. We need all that working for us, because after that, there's nothing we can do. All right. So now, why did I go all off into that? Well, one is this verse 38, 31. It says, behold, they were brought to him eventide coursers of the highest breeding and swift of foot. When you look at chapter 3, it's Ali Imran, ayah 14. Chapter 3, ayah 14. Here's the reading here. It says, fair in the eyes of men is the love of things they covet. They're talking about yearning, right? Talking about that appetite, talking about that desire, talking about what we want, right? Our hungers, our passions, right? Said fair in the eyes of men. God is telling us about our nature. You see shiny things, you see shapely things, you see things that give power, you see things that give status and rank and respect and admiration and people adoring you. It's like those things are fair in the eyes of men, human beings, right? And they love these things and they covet these things. God is saying that's your nature starting out, right? And you can live there if you don't evolve along the path that Allah wants you. So fair in the eyes of men is the love of things they covet, women and children, heaped up hoards of gold and silver. This is God saying. God is showing, see, you like this. You love this. You covet this. You want this. You want, and Allah ain't mad at you. Allah's not mad. I'm saying it with something of an attitude, but Allah, he's the one that created us. It's like he made women. Shoot. He knew what he was doing when he did it. He made men, knew what he was doing when he did it. He made children, knew what he was doing when he did it, right? Gold and silver, all of that. Horses branded for blood and excellence, the wealth of cattle and well-tilled land. Come on now. Just think about it. If you had all those things, would you not be pleased? God said, yeah, I know you like these things. Right? Then next sentence. Such are the possessions of this world's life. But in nearness to Allah is the best of goals to return to. And let reminder on top of reminder. Do not, because Shaitan, he steps in even inside of these kind of statements to convince you. Remember, Shaitan said, I'll come from the right, from the left, from before, from behind. Meaning, if I can't get you on the righteous side, I get you on the wrongness side, right? If I can't get you from being excessive, then I'll get you to be excessively ascetic, right? If I can't get you to be a glutton, I'll get you to be ascetic, to an extreme, right? Right, left. So even out of all of this, right? When God tells us all this, shows us all this, and the appetites come up for that, and we experience all that, then Satan hears that you want to be with the Lord, you want to be for God only. So then Satan will tell you, you don't want none of that. You don't want to let the other people have that. You're above that. You're beyond that. All you want is God. But you got to listen to who's talking to you. He's giving you an attitude to turn away from the beautiful things that our nature appreciates, and that God gave us a nature to appreciate. So Shaitan, he's listening to your disposition to see if he can twist you in some unnatural way relative to your natural desires. That's that 4:119, creating them false desires. It's a false desire to say, it is a false desire to say that it is right not to desire the material world. That's a false desire. It's a false desire to have the desire not to enjoy the benefits of the material world. That's a false desire. That's just so transgenderism. That's not the false desire. That's not the exclusive false desire. The other way is also to have the wrong attitude about good things that Allah created. That's a false desire. Shaitan works on from that perspective too. So that being said, we have to always remind ourselves of that. And God, throughout the Quran, Allah covers it, but we have to always stay in touch with that. So yes, God says, yeah, that's possession of this world. That's from between birth and death. That's a part of what goes on in your birthday up to your death day, these beautiful things. And here they are. And this is what they're for. And this is where they're for. It's wonderful here in this life. Those are possessions of this life's world, of this world's life. But nearness to Allah is best as goals to return to. God said, don't forget. Don't forget. Enjoy. Don't forget your share of the material world, but use some of what you are enjoying to prepare for the life that comes after you pass through that door. Because that's the best and it's most permanent, and there's nothing that compares to it in equality. You'll get a faint glimpse of it in the high pleasures of this world, but the reality of it is coming after this life. But you have to get through the trial of what it does to you in this world that could potentially knock you off the path to arrive in a good place in the life that comes after this life. Here, 1764. Let's go ahead and mention this shaitan, the shaitan's role in it. Understand your enemy. We have to understand our enemy. There's the enemy that wants us to be lazy. There's the enemy that wants us to be superstitious, that wants us to have irrational ideas about how to enjoy these wonderful things in this world. Satan threatens you with poverty. Well, I'm looking at it. It wasn't even what I was going to try to read, but here it is right in front of me. The evil one threatens you with poverty and bids you to conduct unseemly. Allah promises you his forgiveness and bounties, and Allah cares for all and he knows all things. So listen, Satan is the one who's saying, okay, God, you cast me out. You put me in the wrong. So I'm going after your guy. Right? And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to come at him from right, left, before, behind, da. This is like, he's not creating all these fair things and beautiful things and wonderful things, gold, silver, women, children, wealth, cattle, horses, well-tilled land. Satan is not creating those. Allah created those. What Satan wants to mess up, he wants to mess up our attitude towards it, right? And he wants to cause us to fail the test that is life in the presence of all those things. So he's constantly trying to get us to have the wrong attitude about wealth, the wrong attitude about the good things in this world. He wants us to have the wrong attitude about it. And Allah knows, and alhamdulillah, praise be to Allah, he has revealed to us, watch out for your enemy, because I have given him respite. That's what he asked for. Give me respite till the day they're raised. God said respite is given. He said, well, and I'm going to come at them because you put me in the wrong. That's another story. I'm going to come at them about it. I said this several times already. To say this, I'm going to work my plan. God said, it's fine. And Allah says, and that's just and fitting for my plan. One translation, alayya mustaqim. Allah said, my job is the straight path. My job is a straight path. A lot in there. Any case. Because remember, Satan is saying, they ain't fit for that kind of blessing. That's his attitude. They're not fit for God. You're going to give him all that? You're going to give him all that? When I've been a faithful, loyal servant of yours, and you're going to put them in charge after I've been in charge? They ain't worthy. And I'll prove it. Right? And that's his idea of proof is to cause us to behave in the wrong way towards the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put in the nature of creation and in our own nature. He wants to exaggerate and distort our thinking, perception, and behavior relative to that nature. Even when maybe even especially when you talk about the passionate nature and the nature as we relate to pleasure, right? He really wants to exaggerate our attitude about pleasure, and it's such an easy target for him in that sense. Any case, so there's so much of this world that is so pleasant, so pleasurable, so wonderful, so attractive. And there's more skills in the world for creating even more and more beautiful and attractive things and places and experiences, etc. But if you don't know how to manage yourself in the presence of these natural and man-made pleasantries and pleasantness and etc., well, then you could lose the whole battle, I'll call it, or you can fail the whole test of life. All right, so now I gotta say this. So when you understand that Shaitan, that's his 24-hour a day, and that's one of the things that in the movie, The 3,000 Years of Yearning, he said, "Jinn don't sleep." He says, "Jinn don't sleep," right? And that's true. Satan's operation is 24 hours a day. Not all jinn are Satan, but you understand what I'm saying? It's like it's 24/7 all the time. So, and what is those who are on the Iblis mission, the Shaitan, I'm talking about the Iblis, the Jinn, Iblis, Shaitan trajectory. Those who are on that, their thing is constant. And then God knows. God already knows. God said, "You told me what you're going to do. It's just in fit for my plan. You will not be successful over the mukhlasina lahuddin. The only ones that you're going to be successful in your plot and in your plan are those who put themselves in the wrong and join you. They put themselves in the wrong and join you, saying, I'll feel hell with you and them." It's like, it's no loss for me. The loss is for them, right? So 17th chapter, 64th verse, all right? So I want you to pair these 3 and 14, right? It's talking about the beauty of the life, the excellent things of this world. And also add to this 1764. Surah Al-Isra, 1764, it says, and in sight, this is God telling Iblis, the Shaitan, who already said what he's going to do. God said, go ahead. God says, go ahead. He's saying, and incite to senselessness. This is a translation, but this is giving you the sense of it. And incite to senselessness. All you gotta do is listen to some of these claims that people are making, especially in this alphabet community thing. It's like, you claim what? You're claiming what? You're saying this is true? This is reality? That's senselessness. So, and incite to senselessness whoever you can among them with your voice. And that voice, you should understand that voice to be philosophies and ideologies and rationales for these weird behaviors. All right? Incite whoever you can among them with your voice and assault them with your horses and foot soldiers. Right? You understand? Shaitan got foot soldiers working for him, right? With your horses and your foot soldiers, and become a partner in their wealth and their children, and promise them. Think about it. These are all the ways that Shaitan can get into our life. He can join us, become partners with us in our wealth. Some people in business with Satan and they don't know it. Huh? And their children. Shaitan is raising our children, if we can call it raising, with some of us. He's a partner in our raising of our children. God said, go ahead. Well, and their children, and promise them. And then Allah concludes, he says, but Satan does not promise them anything except delusion. Ghurur. So you can buy into a way of thinking that is itself nothing but an illusion, right? Nothing but an illusion. But Shaitan, that's one of his prime skill sets, the ability to make evil look beautiful. All right, let's go back up to 38. Where are we at? 38, 31, right? We coming out of that. So, behold, there were brought before him eventide coursers of the highest breeding and swift of foot. So this is what came to him. Then when he got, so these are gifts that Sulaimaan, he was given these gifts as a part of just the blessing of being Sulaimaan, right? It's like just giving blessed. So these were these beautiful horses were used in this picture. And then Sulaimaan says, and he said, truly do I love the love of good with a view to the glory of my Lord. This is very important. Love those things, everything that I just talked about in 3:14 and 17:64, these beautiful things, all those beautiful, wonderful things from the life of this world, they are wonderful. They are good. They are for you. Have them. But be like Sulaimaan in relationship to them, where he says, truly do I love the love of khair. Let's go ahead and read the Arabic here. فَقَالَ إِنِّي أَحْبَبْتُ حُبَّ الْخَيْرِ عن ذكر ربي حتى توارت بالحجاب. So it says, and he said, truly do I love the love of good, the khair. Khair is whatever is good under all circumstances. Khair means choice. When we talk about like a choice cut of beef, right? I love the best choice. I love to choose the best, right? Something about the tribe of Shabazz just went through my mind. So it says, and the sun was hidden. He said, until the sun was, in this translation, until the sun was hidden in the veil of night. He said, bring them back to me. Then he began to pass his hand over their legs and over their necks. So he's just talking about, man, you see movies like that. People have this, whatever, Seabiscuit or Excalibur, whoever the great horse was, you know, people just adore this wonderful, swift of foot, beautiful creature, the black stallion, right? It's like, that's what Solomon, that's what he had. But he was loving it through the love of God, right? Let's read Maldudi's footnote in conjunction with this. He says, according to this commentary, what actually happened was this. When a squadron of fine, well-bred horses was presented before the prophet Solomon, peace be upon him, he said, I love this wealth, not for the sake of personal glory. This is what we need to understand, brothers and sisters. How many people that have great wealth that you know of, you're aware of, many of them don't flex the way that, y'all know what I mean when I say flex. Many of them don't flex the way that Bilalians have a tendency to, when we get wealthy, you know, athletes, celebrities, it's expected of you, to flex, to drip. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, it's like, come on, you're missing it, right? Any case, so he said, I love this wealth not for the sake of personal glory or desire, but for the cause of raising the word of my Lord, right? This is very, very important. I think that the better we look as we do what we do to the world that we're inviting them to, the better we look, I think our dawah will definitely get stronger, right? Our dawah, why? Because you are showing some of the things that the people of the world like, and there's no sin in having these beautiful things God keeps telling us. But when you present your dawah along with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has showered upon you as blessing, people will be more inclined to listen to what you got to say, because that's going to be the question. It's like, well, what has Allah what has Allah done for you? Right? So you gotta be able to show some of Allah's blessing. And look, and even if you can't show it in a material way, you should be able to show them some wisdom, because money is wisdom, and money is a protection, and wealth is a protection, right? And wisdom is a protection. So they both go together. So if you don't have a lot of money, you should be able to show some wisdom, because that's richness as well. Let's move on with this note. Said, then he ordered that the horses run a race. So, just imagine these horses, these beautiful horses lined up and they're ready. And Solomon says, okay, let's let them race. So they take off on a race, right? And then they disappeared from sight, right? Then he ordered that they be brought back to him. And when they were brought back, according to Ibn Abbas, one of the companions of the Prophet, he started passing his hands over their necks and over their shank with love. And this same commentary is correct in our opinion because it corresponds with the words of the Quran. And for the sake of the full meaning, nothing needs to be added to it, which may neither be in the Quran nor any authentic hadith, nor in the Israelite history. So the notes that I didn't include in that is like he gave Maududi, he gave the interpretation that some people applied to it, and they give this, let's call it the monastic ascetic interpretation of it. I won't go to except to say that Solomon got caught up. That's what they're saying. They're saying that Solomon got caught up, missed his prayers, and then as he missed his prayers, he said, bring those horses back to me. It made me miss my prayer. So then he went to slashing the horses. There's a whole lot of reasons to say, well, nah, that don't sound like Solomon. But Maududi goes through the whole detail, but I'm just giving you the last points. So the point is that he was not overcome by this beauty and this wealth and the grandeur of these creatures to the extent that he forgot God, which is what the other interpreters were saying. No, he forgot God. He missed his prayers. And no, Solomon didn't do that. In fact, the section of verse that it opened up with, where it says that he turned to us often. He was excellent in our service. So that denies the very nature of what was said. Let's move to the next paragraph here. It says, besides, one should also note that Allah has narrated this event immediately after using these epithets, which I just read. It said, an excellent servant who turned to us often, over and over again. For the Prophet Solomon, peace be upon him, this clearly shows that the object is to relate this message. That is, this is the message that's coming through in these verses here. It says, behold, what a good servant of ours he was. He loved the means of kingly pomp and glory, not for the sake of the world, but for our sake. After watching and reviewing his grand cavalry, he did not boast of his power and his grandeur like the worldly rulers, but even at that time, he remembered only Allah, right? So again, the message is, what was Solomon's attitude towards wealth? His attitude toward, yeah, I want it. I want it. and I love it, and I love it for the sake of Allah. There's nothing wrong with having it, and it glorifies God. And I have to be sure that I continue to glorify God in the presence of these graces and not being distracted. It's a part of the trial. So it's a trial to have it. It's a trial to not have it. It's a trial when you get it after not having it. How are you going to respond? How are you act? How you change? How is your faith impacted by that? How's your relationship with God impacted by that? 34, verse 34. It says, and we did try Solomon. We placed on his throne a body without life, but he did turn to us in true devotion. Verse 35. He said, O my Lord, forgive me and grant me a kingdom which it may be suits not another after me, for you are the granter of bounties without measure. All right. So here Solomon, he asked God for a kingdom never to be equaled. Right. That's one way of reading, but another way of reading it, which is appropriate in this context too, is because Sulaimaan, because the verse that came before, they're talking about the dead body put on the throne, et cetera, et cetera. And most of us all know a story. It's not this particular one, but our mind is brought back to, if you have this some biblical context for it, when both women were claiming that this was their child, and the other one saying, no, it's my child, et cetera. Then Solomon, brings a sword and says, okay, well, I'll cut the child in half and I'll give it to each of you, then each one of you have it, right? And so when he, as the story goes, raised a sword to cut the child in half, one woman shouted, no, 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 it's hers, it's her child, it's her child. And then Solomon knew that it was the child of the woman who said it was the other woman's child, because the real mother said, no, I'd rather have the child alive with someone else than to have the child die in that sense. And so by that, his way of determining and judging and the justice that came through that is an example of the kind of king that Sulaimaan was, alayhi salatu wasalam. And so when he's asking to be granted a kingdom, the wisdom is just like the idea of the wealth, right? You have the wealth. Don't turn away from the wealth like you're afraid of it. I don't know what I can do with all that. Well, you need to find out. You need to purify yourself. But again, if you are of the right mind anyway, you're going to get it and you're going to have it, and everything is going to be well because you have the right relationship between God and between yourself and relationship to the material life, and you understand how that's to be mediated through your faith. You got all that. You got that. Okay, so that attitude about wealth is the same attitude that you have to have about governance and about being a just ruler. This is what Solomon said. I want to have a kingdom that it suits no other after me, meaning that I want to have a kingdom in whose spirit, that's the spirit that I'm in now, Solomon, the spirit that I'm in now, I want it to stand forever. I don't want there to be a kingdom after me that is not like me in my justice, me in my adoration and my obedience and my service to people, etc. And in the accumulation of wealth and the like, but all done in this supreme balance vis-a-vis a relationship with God, relationship with the people, keeping the governmental order, keeping the order in such a way that everyone receives justice and all the rest. That's what he's asking for. A kingdom that it suits not another after me. Meaning I want it to be the same way throughout as it relates to these high sacred values, right? And just one more word in this. There's so much more to be said after the shaitan piece is gonna have to wait. That would actually come up a little later. I'll say, yeah. Let's walk up to it, and inshallah, maybe we will next week. Go ahead and do that. I'll play. We'll go ahead and play a little more Myron Golden stuff next week, and and then we'll go a little further on this right there, because we do want to definitely get to the clarity, because we do have to get an understanding of Shaitan, the jinn, and Sulaiman's relationship to that as it relates to his wealth accumulation, wealth creation. Let's read these verses. We read the verse 35 of 38 with regard to the kingdom. Then 36, it says, then we subjected the wind to his power, that is Sulaiman. Then we subjected the wind to his power to flow gently to his order wheresoever he willed, right? And that really is, for the understanding that we're sharing, that really is the beginning of understanding of Solomon and his wealth creation, and how that wealth creation connects to the jinn, right? That it's it is that very verse. Yeah. Oh, 7 up. So 36. I don't have the Arabic for 36 right in front of me. But in any case, the whole idea of subjecting the wind to his power. Yes, the first order you can think about is wind. Like right now, I mean, we have these wind generating power sources, right? The wind. We're using the wind, just like we used windmills way back in the day. Now we still have windmills, but they're constructed a little bit differently. So that's the wind being subjected to our service. The same way we're on sailboats and the like. That's the wind being subjected to our service. Airplanes, that's the wind being subjected to our service. So that's good. So now in Sulaiman's time, the wind again serves the same way. You got the whole issue of ships and everything else like that. But particularly, we want to go internally. The wind has to do with passions, desires, appetites, right? And the jinn was created from a fire free from smoke, the fire of a scorching wind, right? So the power of the wind, right, is a power that we have to internally master. And it really is mastering your sentiments, mastering your sensitivities, mastering your emotions. That is what Sulaimaan actually and also represents as well. And it's in his name, Sulaimaan, soul of man. It's the soul of man. And in the soul of man are these appetites, these passions, these desires that need to be regulated, that need to be disciplined, that need to be directed, that need to be controlled, that need to be reconciled to the will of God in the person, right? So when Allah says we subjected the wind to his power, it means that he had the help of Allah to manage his own self. And you get that also in the spirit of Joseph, alayhi salatu wasalam, which, we'll get back to that. I think it's 1253, where it actually says that inna nafsa la amaratun bisu'a illa ma rahiba rabbi, ma rahima rabbi. It says, verily, the nafs al-amarat, the commanding self, you can take that as the jinn stage of all of us. Surely it commands man to evil, except the one who has received the mercy from his Lord. Inna nafs al-amarat bisu'. So that those passions, those desires, those appetites, they can only be controlled by the mercy of Allah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Solomon, he's showing us, and we subjected the wind to his power, to flow gently to his order, whithersoever he will. That's talking about self-control. That's talking about self-discipline. It's talking about taqwa. All of that. And that's what controls the shayateen, right? And inshallah, next week, perhaps we'll get to that. But I'm going to cut out right now, right here where we are. Invite Haja back. And let me get my visual straight here. And you can, let's see, where am I? All right, great. So any comments? I'm going to click through the people who've checked in on Facebook and the like. Anything you have to say, sweetheart? That'd be great.
No, I think that we've gotten it down to a science where we make the point plain and leave space for anyone that has questions or feedback to chime in if there's something that we have missed or seeking a level of clarity of how to create their system of, discovering the answers for themselves in it. So, yeah. So we encourage you, our listeners, and those that are here with us to feel free to place your questions in there, like develop a level of curiosity and push for us.
Yeah, and anyone who's on Blog Talk, I mean, we'll take these few minutes in as much as they're available. If you don't want to take advantage of them, we'll sign off in love, peace, and soul. Inshallah. Blog Talk One Shot, push one on your phone, come on through. Closing comments. Otherwise, those of you who are online, Fahim Munir, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and then also Hania, Al Islam United States, and Anthony Abdul Haq, Jerome Ahmed, all of you, thank you for joining us. That's going to be it for today. Allah's peace be on all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I see a note from my brother Joel here. Let me see something. I can still get that. So what you're asking me? Can you repeat the movie on Amazon? I think it was 3,000 Years of Yearning. I think that's what I was talking about. The one with Idris Elba and the jinn. 3,000 Years of learning, yearning. All right. Love you. Assalamu alaikum.
Love you too, Baba. Alaikum salam.